This is Jim Williams with the Hurricane City Tropical Update video for August 21st, 1:30 p.m. We have a lot of stuff going on in the tropics. This will be kind of a long update video, but I have some very interesting stuff to pass along in this video. First of all, let's start out with the front page of Hurricane City. You can see we have three systems active in the Atlantic right now. We have TD Harvey passed south of Belize City as a tropical storm last night with 60-mile-per-hour winds, dumping heavy rain and some gusty winds in the southern part of the country. That knocked number 5 off of my list of top 20 areas to be affected this year. And now we have newly formed Tropical Storm Irene southeast of Puerto Rico. And I'll get to some ramifications of that in just a minute. And we have 98L out in the East Atlantic that should pass harmlessly out into the open Atlantic without affecting anybody. But of course, long-range models can be wrong, and we could have to deal with that as well down the road. But right now, all focus is on Tropical Storm Irene. Our current feature is St. Croix, Virgin Islands, southeast of Puerto Rico. Around 2 hours and 30 minutes, the sustained tropical storm force wind should arrive there. In fact, they may already be there. We've had some gusts up to 47 miles an hour on the island of St. Croix. And you can get all the webcams and other latest information from St. Croix as the system moves in. And then our feature may shift to one of the cities in Puerto Rico in the overnight hours. Of course, you always have the thumbnails down here to use, and you can click on the tracking map for more information from all these affected areas. All right, let's take a look at the HurTrack program. Here's our current position of Tropical Storm Irene, and let's go ahead and put this in motion. Now, tonight it'll affect southern coast of Puerto Rico and come right near Cabo Rojo, Puerto Rico, southwest Puerto Rico. That's in my number 11 position, I believe, in my top 20 this year to be affected. And then the system moves tomorrow in the early morning hours. We have the system approaching Dominican Republic, and then it moves through the Dominican Republic, moves through Haiti, and then on the 23rd we have the system near East Cuba, and then it moves out into the Florida Straits, heading into the Bahamas, just west of Andros Island. And at this point it begins to rapidly intensify according to the National Hurricane Center. We have a lot of warm sea surface temperatures over here to tap into, and I'll show you that in just a few minutes. But the system regains hurricane status and moves into South Florida. There's a lot of cities in my top 20 and from South Florida that could knock quite a few off the list. But beware when you look at this forecast track that there's a 5-day error that's way off by about 200 to 250 miles. So anybody from the Florida Panhandle all the way up to, say, South Carolina might have to deal with a direct impact from what will be Hurricane Irene at that time. So everybody needs to be aware, but there could be quite a few cities that knocked off my top 20 cities and islands to be impacted this hurricane season. All right, let's take a look at the floater visible loop of our system. Very well developed system right now. Nice circular ball of convection. The center is right in the middle of it. So now that it's got itself physically established, I think we're going to start seeing more west winds pulling in here, and the system's really going to start ramping up. Warmer sea surface temperatures, better upper level support, and I think we will see a hurricane within 24 hours. This thing should really start ramping up here as it closes in on Puerto Rico, and that's why there is a hurricane warning up for Puerto Rico. All right, the hurricane hunters are flying out right now, and they've been flying out since earlier today. Let's go ahead and take a look at the latest fixes from the hurricane hunters. Now, this first white dot on the screen was from earlier this morning. Earlier today, and we had 1,007 millibars, 46-knot surface winds. And then here, almost due west, is the second position. And again, we're talking a difference of, let's see, that was 1,400 UTC, and we have 15. So that was an hour and a half. It's moved this amount of distance, and they're showing surface winds around 34 knots. But maximum flight level winds 56 knots. So we do have a slightly strengthening system on our hands, and it's going to really ramp up here once it gets a little bit further to the west and clears some of these islands over here. But the thing to note of interest is that the path of this system was generally, in fact, let me show you the next image and I'll be able to clear that up a little bit. Here's the radar from the Virgin Islands. And here I can show you where it was earlier and where it is now. Earlier it passed right over what was our current feature at that time, Guadalupe. And then it's moved steadily west-northwest the entire time. And here's our center of circulation right in here. So, and of course, St. Croix is down in here. So St. Croix is right now being battered by some of the northeast winds on the north side of the center of circulation. But the Hurricane Hunter fixes show it moving almost due west right now. So, and a lot of the models did pick up on there would be a westerly movement here and then heading right into Hispaniola. So it's remained to be seen if that actually happens. But it was steer stepping quite a bit for the past 24 hours. The official motion is west-northwest. Now here's the official cone of error from the National Hurricane Center. And you can see there's a wide, it could be up in here somewhere, which there's a few models that indicate that, and it could be over here, which less models indicate that. Right now the heavily leaning would be more to the right here, based on the trends and the models. But everybody in the state of Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, really need to pay very close attention to the system, as we could have ourselves a major hurricane moving in that general direction. Now let's get to the models on this, and this is rather interesting. The reason I'm showing you the model map from Hurricane-City, not only because it's mouse overable and you can see the intensities, but I wanted to mention that I'm going to try to use Hurricane George back in 1998 as the criteria for using some of these model runs and whatnot, and how they perform with George compared to what's going on with this one. Because what George did is it moved entirely over the Greater Antilles and then shot right into the Florida Keys, and then went right up into Mississippi. And what that did was it broke it down a little bit. It came into Puerto Rico as a Category 3 and then weakened down to a Category 1 and then regained Category 2 status in the Florida Keys. But the best performing models with Hurricane George back at that time was the BAM model, which is this aqua model right here, and the LBAR model right here. These two models perform very good on Hurricane George. So I just wanted to show you those two models. That's what they're doing. One takes it just off the coast of Florida right near West Palm Beach, and the other one takes it right into the Florida Keys, right up the center of the state. So those are two models to keep an eye on. The BAM models did very well with Hurricane George back in 1998, so we'll see if that pans out. Now here is the Canadian model, and the Canadian model, and again this is going out to Friday night, and the Canadian model has this just off the coast of Florida. Let me zoom in on this a lot here. And what it does is it takes it right up like this and right off the coast and right up into North Florida. So that's what the Canadian is showing for Friday night. And let's go ahead and look at the GFS model. And the GFS model is indicating that this system is going to ride up through East Cuba and do basically the same thing, but it's going to be more on the coast of Florida and then heading into Georgia and South Carolina. And that's on Sunday night that happens. And notice they all have this trough lingering up here, and that's the reason this is going to turn. The high pressure is going to break down a little bit, and it's going to allow this turn to take place. Let's go ahead and take a look at the no-gaps model. Again, the no-gaps has this system. And again, the no-gaps tends to have a left bias to a lot of these systems, but it has it coming up right through the center of the state like this and then turning north. And again, here's that trough up here in the northeast that's going to cause it to turn north. Now here's the Euro model, and the Euro again takes it right off the coast of Florida, has it coming up through East Cuba right near Andros Island, and then turning north just off the coast of West Palm Beach, coming right into Georgia as a pretty significant hurricane up here. And the Euro is a very good model, so we need to pay very close attention to that. The Euro's been pretty consistent, taking this very near Florida or just east of Florida for the past couple of days. Now here are the tropical models. This is the GFDL model, which, by the way, the GFDL model did not do a very good job on Hurricane George back in 1998, but the GFDL model has this going just right over the Florida Keys, just west of the southwest Florida coast, as a 110-mile-per-hour hurricane. And let's go ahead and look at the H-Wharf, the HFIP model from the H-Wharf. And the reason I'm using this model to show you rather than a regular H-Wharf is this is initializing this system better out near Puerto Rico as a weak tropical storm, which is what it is right now. And the HFIP model has this coming into South Florida and riding right up the center of the state, and it has it as a major hurricane coming into Miami, so we need to pay close attention to that. The HFIP model, the only difference in that and the H-Wharf is the HFIP model has a lot of additional information and such as weather observations and such added into the models compared to the HWRF that's just running it off environmental variables rather than the actual observations on the ground. So I guess there's additional information put into the HWRF model, and that's we'll see if that pans out. Now this is interesting. This is the Euro. Not the Euro. This is the UK Met. Now the UK Met did not do very well on Hurricane George back in 1998, and the UK Met has this ridge really strong out here, and has this is Thursday night, folks. It has it near the Isle of Youth, Cuba, over here on the west tip of Cuba on Thursday night. Now here's yesterday's model of the UK Met, and it pretty much has been consistent. It wants to take this system basically due west through Hispaniola, right just north of Jamaica, and toward the west tip of Cuba. So there are a few models indicating that, and the UK Met has been stubborn on keeping this on a westerly path. So it'll be interesting to see if that one pans out. Now, here, actually, before I get to the heat content, let me show you tropicalatlantic.com, and let's go over all the models. I ran all of the models that actually take this into land. The models that are excluded are the ones that keep it down in the Greater Antilles here and aren't really doing very much with it. But we're counting all models that actually trend toward the north here. And we ran 55 different models. Out of the 55 models, 18.8% of the models take it somewhere in this vicinity right here. 40% of the models take it somewhere right over South Florida. Only about 9% of the models take it somewhere in this vicinity, and 32% of the models take it right out here in the open water, heading generally up towards Georgia and South Carolina. So the most affected area at this point by all the models, consensus would be South Florida, followed by the southeastern United States, followed by the west coast of Florida, followed by North Florida. So the trend is generally for this area right in here is probably the bullseye of all the models combined. Now, the best performing model up to this point has been the Aviation Ensemble model number 2, and that takes it just like this, right off the coast of Florida, right inside that bullseye circle I was telling you about, just off the coast of West Palm Beach. And the best intensity model has been the AVNO model. And the AVNO model, actually, where was that model here? The AVNO takes it generally right on the coast of Florida, and that's only been off by about 5 miles per hour so far. So the best performing model on intensity also has it right near the southeastern coast of Florida. All right, let's take a look at the 78-degree isotherm map. Now, this is a map that shows you temperatures that are 78 degrees or higher, well below the surface of the ocean. So the ocean, a slow-moving hurricane, is what we expect to happen here with Irene, is for it to slow down when it gets in this vicinity down here. And it has all this oceanic heat content down here, where even if it's slowed down, it would be pulling up warmer waters from underneath the surface of the ocean, underneath the already warm waters on the surface, and dragging it to the surface. So even a slow-moving hurricane would not really weaken that much, because there would be warm water being brought up to the surface, and that's generally what this map indicates. All around, all through this area here, we have very warm sea surface temperatures well below the surface of the ocean. Now, if we look at the actual sea surface temperatures, very warm over here again. Temperatures 85, 86, 87 degrees all through the Bahamas, Florida, and southwest Florida area. So there's a lot of heat content to dig into here for this system to strengthen if it has upper level support, which it looks like it will have. All right, well, that's about it for now. We'll be back with another update tomorrow afternoon or tomorrow evening on the situation. We'll continue to feature the cities and islands that we think are in harm's way. And then, of course, once this becomes a hurricane, probably tomorrow night we'll start doing hurricane watch shows where you can call in and give your opinion on where you think this thing is going to go. We'll have the talk shows open, the phone lines open tomorrow night on hurricanecity.tv. That's about it for now. Thank you again for visiting Hurricane City.